I never thought a joke could end a marriage, but that's exactly what happened. Looking back, the warning signs were there long before that night. I'm Callum Reeves. I'm 43, and until recently I was married to a woman named Brianna Holt for 12 years. We met in Chicago, both working long hours, both convinced we'd found someone steady. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't the loudest guy in any room. But I showed up. I paid my share. I listened. Brianna used to say that was what she loved about me, that I made her feel safe. For a long time, that felt like enough. The shift didn't happen overnight. It never does. It started with small things. She began correcting me in public, always with a laugh. If I mispronounced a word, she'd roll her eyes. If I told a story, she'd interrupt with, "That's not how it happened," and everyone would chuckle. I told myself I was being sensitive, that marriage meant swallowing small annoyances. Over time, those laughs started to sting. They weren't shared jokes. They were at my expense, and somehow I was expected to smile through them. By year 10, we were social more than intimate. Dinner parties, birthdays, office gatherings. At home, we coexisted. At events, she performed. She loved the attention, the way people leaned in when she spoke. I stood beside her, glass in hand, feeling like an accessory. When I tried to talk about it later, she'd say I was imagining things, that she was just joking. I didn't want to be the guy who couldn't take a joke. The night everything broke was at a friend's anniversary party. Big rented space, open bar, too much noise. Brianna was in her element. Halfway through the evening, someone made a comment about how long we'd been married. Brianna laughed loudly and said, "Honestly, if anyone knows where I can get a new husband, let me know." People laughed. Someone whistled. She raised her glass like she'd landed a punchline. I felt my face heat up, but I stayed quiet. I always stayed quiet. Someone yelled, "Careful, Callum," still laughing. Brianna waved it off. "Relax, I'm kidding," she said, hand on my arm, nails digging in just enough to hurt. "He knows I'm joking." I looked around at the circle of smiling faces, waiting for the moment to pass. Inside, something folded in on itself. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was the realization that she felt comfortable belittling me publicly, that my discomfort was part of the entertainment. Later that night, as people drifted toward the bar, someone repeated the joke, asking if she'd found that new husband yet. Brianna laughed again and said, "I'm still taking applications." That's when I spoke. Quietly. Calmly. I said, "That's not funny." She rolled her eyes and replied, "God, don't be so dramatic. It's a joke." Then she turned to the group and added, "See what I deal with?" More laughter. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her back. I just said, "If you need a new husband, you should go find one." The room went still. Brianna stared at me like I'd slapped her. "What is that supposed to mean?" she asked. I met her eyes and said the sentence that ended everything. "It means I'm done being the punchline in my own marriage." Her smile vanished. She hissed that I was embarrassing her. I replied evenly, "You already did that." She scoffed, grabbed her bag, and walked away from me, leaving the party without another word. People avoided my gaze. A few looked sympathetic. Most looked uncomfortable. I finished my drink, thanked the hosts, and went home alone. When Brianna came back later, she was furious. She accused me of humiliating her, of overreacting, of ruining the night. I listened. When she finished, I said, "You joke about replacing me because you don't respect me anymore." She laughed sharply and said, "You're seriously this insecure?" That was the moment the fog lifted. I realized I wasn't insecure. I was exhausted. I told her I needed space. She mocked that too. So I packed a bag, not out of anger, but out of clarity. I left that night and stayed with my brother. The next morning, Brianna texted that I was being ridiculous, that I needed to come home and apologize. I replied that I'd be happy to talk, but only if she could acknowledge what she'd done. She never did. Instead, she doubled down, telling friends I'd lost my sense of humor. Over the following weeks, the story she told was that I walked out because of a joke. The truth was simpler. I left because that joke revealed something she'd been showing me for years. Disdain. You can survive arguments. You can survive stress. You can't survive contempt. Once your partner finds it funny to undermine you publicly, the marriage is already hollow. I didn't leave because I stopped loving her. I left because I started respecting myself. That ice-cold reply wasn't cruelty. It was honesty, delivered without shouting, without theatrics. I didn't need revenge. I needed peace. And sometimes, the calmest sentence in the room is the one that changes everything.